War? What war? You ain't gonna believe this. I'm talking about a war so strange, so downright funny, it'd make a possum spit out its own grits. I'm talking about the time Australia declared war on emus. Yep, them big old birds. Year was 1932. And let me tell you, it was a hoot and a half. Now you might be thinking, Larry, why in tarnation would anyone fight a bird? Well, buckle up, Buttercup, because this story's a real knee slapper. If you're enjoying this wild tale, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Picture this. World War I's over and folks down under are trying to make a living farming the outback. The land was tough, but the spirit of the people was tougher. They were determined to turn the arid soil into a bountiful harvest, hoping to rebuild their lives after the devastation of the war. But there's a problem. Emus, thousands of them. These big, flightless birds standing over 6 feet tall were more than just a nuisance. They were a force of nature, migrating in massive flocks across the land. These feathered fiends were wreaking havoc on crops, eating everything in sight. Wheat fields, vegetable patches, you name it, they devoured it. The farmers' hard work was being undone by these relentless eaters.
Farmers, they'd had enough. They were at their wits' end, watching their livelihoods disappear beak by beak. They went crying to the government like a hound dog in a thunderstorm. Desperation was in their voices, and they demanded action. "Do something about these pesky birds," they hollered. The farmers were united in their plea, hoping for a solution to save their crops and their future.
Now, the government, they were fresh out of ideas. So what did they do? Declared war, of course. It was an unprecedented move, but desperate times called for desperate measures. Because nothing says problem solved like unleashing the military on some flightless birds. Soldiers armed with machine guns were sent to the outback, ready to take on the emu menace. It was a bizarre and almost comical chapter in history, but it showed just how serious the emu problem had become. So, the Australian Army saddles up, armed with Lewis machine guns. These were state-of-the-art weapons back in the day, capable of firing hundreds of rounds per minute. The soldiers were confident, ready to take on what they thought would be an easy mission. They were expecting an easy victory, like shooting fish in a barrel. The emus, after all, were just birds, right? How hard could it be to take down a bunch of oversized, flightless birds? But boy, were they in for a surprise. The emus were not just any birds. They were fast, unpredictable, and seemed to have a sixth sense for danger. Turns out, emus ain't easy targets. They could run at speeds of up to 50 kilometers per hour and change direction in a split second. They're fast, they're agile, and they can dodge bullets like Neo in the Matrix. It was almost as if they had some kind of supernatural ability to evade the soldiers' fire.
One account tells of soldiers setting up on a hill, ready to ambush a flock of emus. They had the high ground, a strategic advantage that should have guaranteed success. They opened fire and nothing. The emus were gone, in a flash, disappearing into the landscape as if they were never there. The emus scattered like marbles on a hardwood floor. They moved in all directions, making it impossible for the soldiers to get a clear shot. The soldiers, they're looking at each other like, did we miss? They couldn't believe their eyes. How could a bunch of birds outsmart trained military personnel? Then one of them says, "I think those birds are laughing at us." It was a humbling experience, to say the least. The Great Emu War, as it came to be known, was a lesson in underestimating nature.
Section 4, mission failed. We'll get him next time.
The war raged on for weeks. Soldiers tried everything to outsmart these feathered foes. They chased them in trucks, set up ambushes, even tried to herd them like cattle. But the emus, they always outsmarted them, running rings around the soldiers like they were standing still. Newspapers, they were having a field day. Headlines like "Emus win first round" and "Feathered foe outwits army." The whole world was laughing, and you can bet your bottom dollar those soldiers weren't feeling too proud.
Section 5. The emus won. Let's never speak of this again.
After a month of fighting and not much to show for it but a whole lot of wasted bullets, the Australian government called it quits. The emus, they'd won. They were free to roam the outback, eating all the crops they could find. The Great Emu War, it went down in history as one of the most hilarious military blunders of all time. It's a story that proves sometimes, no matter how hard you try, you just can't fix stupid, especially when you're fighting a bird that's smarter than you think. The emus, with their long legs and quick movements, outsmarted the soldiers at every turn. The soldiers, armed with machine guns and high hopes, found themselves outmatched by these flightless birds. The emus would scatter at the sound of gunfire, regrouping and continuing their feast on the crops. It was a battle of wits and endurance, and the emus had both in spades. The government tried different tactics, from ambushes to motorized assaults, but nothing worked. The emus were too fast, too agile, and too numerous. The soldiers, frustrated and exhausted, could do little but watch as the emus continued their rampage. The war, if you could call it that, became a laughingstock, a tale of human folly and the unexpected resilience of nature. In the end, the emus won not just the battle, but the war. They became a symbol of the unpredictable and often humorous ways in which nature can defy human expectations. The Great Emu War remains a quirky footnote in history, a reminder that sometimes the best-laid plans can be undone by the simplest of creatures. And so the emus roamed free, a testament to their cunning and tenacity, while the humans were left to ponder their defeat and perhaps share a laugh at their own expense.
Section 6, Emu War, the musical.
Now some folks might say the Great Emu War was a national embarrassment, but me, I see it as a testament to the resilience of nature. And hey, it makes for one heck of a story. I can already see it now. Emu War the musical, it'll be a hoot.